Mark Anthony Estrada. Welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Zach. Thank you so much for having me, man. It's wonderful to talk to you, man, first of all. More than anything, I was more than looking forward to having a conversation with you, man. It's been a while since you and I have spoken.
It's been a while. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure and an honor and a privilege. Listen, it's interesting. I want to get right to it because so often, like living corporate, we have conversations. We have a lot of conversations. We pride ourselves on having conversations with like senior executives, um, authors, and entrepreneurs, and like quote unquote big wigs, big names, quote unquote. Right. I think though that like, especially in this season where we as a brand continue to refocus on the importance of employee experience, as well as like just looking at the landscape of work today and like folks really struggling either in finding a job and keeping a job and being treated respectfully at their job. I'm excited to talk to somebody who is like more so on the ground, right? And like I like the idea of like this profile and have a discussion with someone who I've come to know like in a really like what's the word, in a really non-conventional way, because we both met on a Joe Budden podcast Discord, but then got to know each other and just kind of start talking about career, right? Like, and so I'm excited about this conversation being a little bit different than the ones that I often have with the suit and ties, who we break it down. Don't get me wrong, we keep it real talk, but I'm just excited about this conversation, man. Talk to me a little bit about your background, your upbringing, and the work that you're doing right now.
Man, that is so vast. If I were to answer that, it would take me the whole 30 minutes that we're probably going to be doing here. So, break it down simply. I live in a border town in the city of El Paso, El Paso, Texas, right on the corner of Texas, New Mexico, and Mexico. So, any way you go, you're going to go towards another place, in other words, whether it's New Mexico, whether it's Juarez, which is our sister city, um, which is where I've spent most of my time too, here in El Paso and Juarez, Mexico. Learned Spanish in Mexico, learned Spanish in Juarez. English was my first language. That was kind of something that was imposed on us as we were coming up. Um, Kind of going off of what you were saying though, so that we can find jobs, so that we can succeed in school, so that we can, you know what I mean, have a foundation set up for us that our families didn't have when they were coming up. Um, what I do for work, I sell phones. I'm in the cell phone industry. So I'm contracted by Walmart, and with them, I'm able to sell phones for Verizon, AT&T, all the major carriers within the facility. Not a Walmart employee, but they give me the environment to do my work, all quid pro quo, for lack of a better phrase. Um, 99% of my clientele is Spanish speaking. If I didn't speak Spanish, I would not have the sales that I have right now. Um, Not only that, 99% of my coworkers there at Walmart, I don't work for Walmart, right? But the people that work there, all Spanish speaking. If not, they're black. Black Mexican is 99% of my city. In my city, we also have a one of the biggest military bases, Fort Bliss. So everybody that's from here is also not really from here. We have people that are either from Mexico or from other parts of the country. Yeah, that's basically a basic background of me.
That's so interesting. I mean, first of all, there's just so much diversity, right, in what you're saying. First of all, I think it's hard for people who don't live in a border town to understand the dynamics of a border town. Like,
And I
yeah,
go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
So I was gonna say that not just it being a border town, but because it's kind of more military based, we have such a the melting pot here in El Paso. Like it's such you can say that the United States is basically built in my city. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Because you can see everybody from Washington, Tacoma, whether it's Baltimore, Maryland, whether it's, you know what I mean, everywhere, parts of the world, you're gonna see it here in El Paso. Um, it's very culture, it's very diverse here in the city.
It's interesting to me when I think about and what you're saying is like there's all these conversations where it's like these terms that I grew up thinking were just normal words, right, are now being demonized, and yet, like in your conversation, like it's critical. Like, so I think about the term diversity, right? Like, and now it's apparently like diversity is this evil, bad thing, and it's like you just described, like, man, if it wasn't for your background and your like the way you were raised, your ability to your ability to be bilingual, and just the cultures that you engage with, not just like from a customer perspective, but also from like a colleague and coworker perspective, you wouldn't be able to work in the ways that you do.
Exactly, exactly. The foundation was definitely set from day one by my generation. So I had my bisabuela. Bisabuela is a great grandma. I had my great grandma until I was about 12. She only spoke Spanish. So even though English was my first language, just communicating with her, just getting all of the basic like morals and wisdoms from her, kind of set me up for success. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the greatest woman that I've ever met in my life. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be Mark Anthony. I wouldn't be the guy that I am today. I wouldn't be the man that I am today, for sure.
That's a beautiful thing, Mark. Like I think so much about like it's interesting too how like the like life and work they're like just they are irrevocably like just intermingled, right? So like the way that you navigate the world of work influenced by your family, the fact that you're bilingual influenced and driven from by your family and family experiences, and then like even how you just treat people and build positive customer experiences is also influenced by your family and culture, right? I mean, talk to me a little bit, right? I know that like we've known each other for a little while. I
It's
want to
about a
get
year.
right to about a year, right?
About a year.
Like I want to get to it because I was thinking about this recent administration, and I remember we were talking in the Discord, and you and I also talked like on the phone, but like of just my concern around with this ramped up administration really ramping up ICE, that we would get to a point where ICE is like detaining and disappearing citizens, or people that are not undocumented in any way, and like I'm really curious, how are you carrying, like, do you carry any of those concerns? Like, how do you feel about that as a Mexican American, as a U.S. citizen? Like, what is that? Like, what is your perspective on that at all?
So we go back into, how do I say this? It was a slippery slope. It was a slippery slope from the day that I was introduced to this world, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what I'm trying to say is the new administration may have put a lot more emphasis on it, but since I was young, my grandpa who served in Vietnam was always kind of emphasizing that we were American Mexican, not Mexican American. Like, and just the order of words was kind of him telling us, like, understand that we are in this country as Americans now, and kind of trying to let go. As I said, English was my first language. They
Mm-hmm.
emphasized that since day one. It was more like thus trying to, we've slowly but surely been going away from Mexican culture, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
It was what I'm trying to say. And it's kind of been emphasized, man. Now we are seeing more push for people disappearing. I guess we can say deportations, things like that. But it's always kind of been something. It's always been a main concern of ours, which is why you're seeing such high numbers when it comes to illegal immigration, when it comes to things like that, because we're always going to find a way. That's the thing with Mexicans. That's the thing with Latin culture in general. Whether it's Venezuelan, whether it's, we're always going to find a way. We're gonna, if we want to come into this country, we're going to, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yes, while it is a concern, more than anything, it's always like improvise, adapt, and overcome. Like no matter what we're gonna do, we're gonna find a way.
Yeah, I was thinking about, it's interesting too because like yes, like the Trump administration is much more braggadocious and brash and cruel, but
Verbal,
people have been
a lot
getting,
more verbal.
yeah, but people have been getting deported like from this country for like since the implementation of ICE and before that, right? So like it's not like this is
Exactly.
some new phenomena. I think what is to me scary is people being just sent to overseas prisons, labor
Exactly.
camps, gulags, right? And so, but I hear your perspective, which I think also highlights my own privilege, is that this is something that has been a point of concern or just awareness for your family,
Since
and you were raised with
yes.
that point, with that attitude from your grandfather, from your great grandfather.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's like, how do I say the point I'm trying to make here? It's also a fact that now you're going to see a lot more raids. Now you're going to see that bullet without a name, so to speak. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to see a lot more people that have been in this country, their families have been in this country for a long time, still getting deported, still getting stopped, still getting their facilities raided. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's the scary part, definitely. That even me, who has had my family here for generations, can still have some kind of scare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even then, with the changes that we're seeing now, my clientele isn't available to me as much. People aren't
Mm-hmm.
being able to cross the border as much. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a lot more of a risk just trying to come back and forth from country to country. It used to just be a 30-minute drive. Now it's a 3 hour wait plus crossing the border, plus inspection, plus et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? So yes, all those things are nerve wracking, so to speak, but it's always been the case. So you know what I mean? It's always been the case.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, the last time I went out of the country, I went to Canada, went to Mississauga for a conference, and this was in November. Yeah, I was out during the election, during the presidential election, and ever since then I was like, and you know, you see everything going on with border crossings. You see what's happening and how ICE and the Department of Defense and all these other groups are moving, and like you're seeing even like other American citizens at any border just being like just hassled. It's like, man, like let me
You see,
just sit still.
and you were crossing and you were traveling for business. Imagine traveling recreationally. Imagine traveling just because you want to go get your meds that are cheaper across. You know what I mean? Imagine
Wow.
crossing because your dentist is in Mexico. Imagine, you know what I mean? Things like that are raising red flags to um, CBP. Um, what's the word that I'm looking for? Customs.
Mm.
Um, you know what I mean? So they are emphasizing a lot of like, why are you crossing daily? Why are you crossing so often? Why don't you go to the dentist here in the States? You know what I mean? They're asking the
Mm.
wrong questions. And it's frustrating as hell because we've always been doing this. You know what I mean? I've always gone to Mexico. Tacos are better over there, bro. Food is better over there. You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't I go to Mexico when it's just right there? But
Right.
it's frustrating now that I have to wait 3 hours to go get those same tacos. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, I think it's and I think there's a I know rather there's an uncalculated cost of all of these actions, right? Like in terms of just like, hey, this just makes the daily life of Americans, just people who live here, be they citizens or otherwise, makes it just much harder, like just to live,
Yeah.
right? Like just to mind your own, like you're just minding your own business.
Yes, because
And I think
I
it's
was emphasizing the cross from Mexico to the States, right?
yeah,
Now there's weights going from the States to Mexico too. So imagine trailers, 18 wheelers trying to cross the border, and then any freaking wind comes up, bro. Those they're flipping over. You know what I mean? So much is going into this that, like you said, is uncalculated, is unprecedented, hasn't even been considered, but we're going through it on a daily, man. Winds go up to 20 miles an hour here, and 18 wheelers are flipping over, bro, because they're going on a freeway. They're trying to cross the border. You know what I mean? And because of the wait times, they're at a standstill. You know what I mean? What else are you gonna do? You can't move. You can't. There's so much frustration going into it. I was only talking about tacos, but when we're talking about the grand scheme of things, it's frustrating. It is frustrating.
so you know, you talked about your work. I know that you really enjoy the job that you have. You talked a bit about like the current landscape and its impact on even how you're engaging your customers. You know, what advice would you give to like not and let's not talk about your particular company, but just like to executive leaders who are trying to figure out how to navigate like what things could be done to make your day to day healthier and better?
That is so hard to answer. I think that it would start, I mean, obviously, it would start from the ground up. If you're not hiring bilingual, make sure that your training for the job has some kind of like whatever jargon you use within your company. Make sure that that person is able to translate that into both languages.
Hmm.
Not just for you, not but for your client as well.
Hmm.
Um, you're not always going to have the English speakers. You know what I mean? So just make it a little bit easier. You know what I mean? Um, Not only that, if you're not hiring diversely, you're not going to have a diverse clientele. I buy from people I relate to, and that's coming from a salesman. You know what I mean? I am an impulsive buyer, but I also listen to people's sales pitches because I come from that world. You know what I mean? But also, I am less inclined to listen to you if I don't relate to you from jump. If I don't see some kind of like, you know what I mean? I relate to this person in some way, shape, or form. I'm gonna listen to him past hello, past how you doing, past, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're not, so all of that is gonna snowball into success. Is gonna snowball into your foundation being healthier, to answer your question more specifically.
You know, something you said there too, like it reinforces, which again, it's just like so much of the stuff, Mark, to me is like just so obvious and like things that we knew, but it seemingly we're having to relearn or re-educate, rediscuss, re-interrogate. But like immigrant communities are viable business communities, and so
Heavy.
and like there's this treating people, treating any group of people like there's some foreign invader or threat. One is dehumanizing and wrong, but then two, it's like, hey, like these people, they they're part of your market share, they're part of your business, like, and it's really interesting to hear how you're articulating your own experiences. And I think also like it's easy to kind of just minimize and be like, oh well, these people only exist over here, or they only exist in pockets over here. No, like we're a nation of immigrants. Immigrants are everywhere. Immigrants are at border towns, but they're also in the Midwest. They're also in Wisconsin. They're also in Maine and Washington State. Like they're everywhere.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think like it's just an inconvenient reality for a lot of people that the minute that you start creating conditions that would foster um, danger or insecurity, you're then pulling on a bunch of different levers that are going to create harm, both like societally and also like economically, right? And so, as I think about this season, I'm talking to so many people, Mark, and like the landscape is tough. The landscape is tough for a lot of folks who have 9 to 5s. Landscape is tough for people who are trying to look for jobs. Um, it's hard sometimes to keep hope. Like, what is it, if anything, that you're hopeful about in this moment, and like that you're looking to the next 6 to 12 months, 18 months to say, okay, I have hope that things are going to improve, or this is what's keeping me going.
I'm gonna have to pause. Goodness, that's really hard, man, because things aren't looking up for us. Things aren't looking up, period. That's not just for me. That's not just for you. That's not just for our older generations that are gonna possibly lose their Medicaids, and you know what I mean? No, it's we're all in the same boat, man, and it's really hard to look at the upside, other than the fact that at this current point in time, I am stable. I am stable. I do have a foundation that I can move forward from, and that is something that I am hopeful for. But within the next 6 to 12 months, I know that we're going to be struggle bussing. We're going to be struggle bussing, and what is good is in my blood we have resilience. My culture is very resilient, and I know that we're going to hold it down. We'll be all right.
Mark, man, I appreciate the candor. I appreciate you giving context even to the work that you're doing and the landscape within which you're doing it. I think like the very practical um, implications of just like living life and what these policies are doing to the world of work and just day to day living is
Listen,
practical.
I
I
am
think.
very chill. I am very chill. I am very practical, like you're saying, but my palms are sweaty, bro. My palms are sweaty. Like I'm seeing the turnover rate at my job increase. I am seeing people leave their job just because they lived in Mexico and they were having to cross every day. Of course, that's going to bring some tardiness. Of course, that's going to bring some attendance things into play.
Mm,
Those guys shouldn't be losing their job because of that, though. You know what I mean? There,
mm,
there should be some kind of workaround. There should be things that we should be implying. Trust me, man. I am nervous. I am nervous not just for myself. I am nervous for the people that are living in the same situations that I am. I might just be putting a better cover on. You know what I mean? But
yeah. No,
at the surface, I'm chill. But trust me, my palms are sweaty as hell,
I
bro.
believe you. I believe you. And man, like I hear what you're also saying about we're together, right? Like, and I think
Yes,
this moment, this season, it's gonna call for um, collaboration and community across class, across race, across gender and sexual orientation. We're gonna have to organize. You know, it's spooky, man. When I see politicians even say, "Oh, well, the people have to rise up," and it's like, well, what do you actually think that means? And like, and okay, if that's what you're saying, but like, are y'all ready for that? Because I do agree, like, we're gonna be all right, but we're not gonna be all right if we don't practice solidarity, right? Like, if we are
one
over
thousand
here
percent.
just trying to like, um, pit be against each other and argue about like, hey, man, like the enemy is not the enemy is not the person next to you also struggling to make it day to day. Like the
Exactly.
enemy are these systems and institutions and structures and policies that are actively tearing us apart and impoverishing us, right?
And let's converse about it. Let's talk about it before we make any actions because those boycotts that we were seeing, man, were not helping anything. That was not solidarity. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like I said, 99% of my clientele is Spanish speaking.
mm,
99% of the people that I work with are Spanish speaking or DEI included, right?
mm, 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 mm.
So why are you not going to go to their place of work? So why are you going to cause any potential layoff, any potential, you know what I mean? If I can't go to my job, my clients can't necessarily reach me. I can't, you know what I mean?
Right.
There's so many things that are coming into play, but that is not an effective way of doing it. Like let's talk about it. Let's discuss a proper
Yeah.
way for us to make an effect because we can. We definitely can and we definitely should. But let's converse. Let's discuss. Let's
Yeah.
talk about this.
I love that. I love that. And I think and that's what I mean about having like a lens that extends beyond your immediate community and also challenging yourself to redefine what does community actually mean, especially in this moment, right? So I hear that. Mark, man, it's been a pleasure. I'm just so glad we're able to have you on Living Corporate. Thank you for sharing some parts of your story. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for being transparent. I hear you. Yes, you have a really calm demeanor, but I also hear and respect the anxiety that you're carrying, that a lot of us are carrying, but you're carrying in a much more pointed way. And so, thank you for your willingness to have a real talk about it on the podcast, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having the time, man. Thank you for inviting me onto this platform, man. I appreciate you.
I
And
appreciate you.
appreciate your authenticity too, man. I've always seen that in you. You've always been very authentic. I did meet you on an online platform, but you've always been you, man. You always, you know what I mean? And that's why I mess with you, bro. That's why I fucks with you, for lack of a better word. I'm sorry. I don't know if I can cuss on here, bro.
You can cuss on it. It's
But
fine. We'll mark it explicit. It's
yeah.
cool. It's cool.
All right, man. I appreciate you, man. I fucks with you, bro. I appreciate you, man. And
I
you're one
appreciate
of
you
the
too,
real
Mark.
ones, bro. You're one of the real ones. We'll discuss more. We'll talk more later. And have me on whenever you want, bro. I'll be here.
I got you, Mark. We'll talk soon, brother.
I appreciate you, man.
Peace.